Hey everyone, welcome to A Day in the Life of a Sports Physical Therapist. My name is Brian Schwabe, board certified sports physical therapist, entrepreneur, and co-founder of the Student Physical Therapist. I've worked with elite athletes for over a decade and currently serve as the director of IO Sports Therapy, working side by side with high performance coaches, NFL and NBA skills trainers, and sports agents on a daily basis. I'm also an author, sports medicine consultant, course creator, speaker, and counselor sports physical therapist, traveling with professional athletes and celebrities. So the purpose of these short segments is to help you learn about what it's really like to work in a true sports physical therapy setting alongside high performance coaches, sports agents, skills trainers, and professional athletes. I'll provide you each week with actionable tips as I take you through a day in the life of a sports physical therapist.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another day in the life of a sports physical therapist. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to demonstrate value to professional athletes. So the reason why I'm bringing this up today, when I was a young clinician, I was constantly seeking out information on, working with professional athletes, whether it was for a team setting, working with professional athletes in the private sector setting. There was a couple PTs that I really respected and looked up to. Again, the purpose of all these segments are really just to give my experience working as a sports physical therapist and try to pass on some of those experiences so that, if you are interested in working with professional athletes, or if you're interested in just sports physical therapy in general, you have a little bit of examples from myself and some of the experiences I've gone through. And that way you can tailor it to hopefully your experiences and what your career goals are. So I want to talk about how to demonstrate value today with professional athletes, because I know so many of you are interested in working with professional athletes. And the questions I constantly get from students and younger clinicians is, how do I, get in front of professional athletes? How do I start working with them? And how do I, establish that rapport and that relationship with them? So that's really the part I'm going to talk about, is that rapport and how to demonstrate value. I'll talk in a different segment about how to actually get in front of professional athletes, but let's talk about demonstrating value to them first, because I think if you understand that, that's going to really help for the first time you are exposed to a professional athlete, or many times over, so you can actually keep those professional athletes as clients long term and have good success with them. So there's three primary tips I have for you when demonstrating value and trying to for professional athletes. The first tip is, number one, understand that, they got here without you. So let's dissect that a little bit. What does that mean exactly? Well, understand the first time that they come to see you, they already got to that point in their career without you. They probably had other practitioners, both good and bad. And all of these experiences that they've had will shape their experience with you. So the quicker you can understand that, they got here without you, and you can check your ego and understand that you're talking with somebody that's probably had quite a bit of experience and education, but more importantly, has had some understanding of what is considered possibly good and possibly bad, or maybe no experience at all, but they've been exposed to something. So, it's your job to, as you're talking with them, interviewing them, having a subjective conversation with them, not only the first day, but subsequent treatments, to establish that rapport. I'll give you an example. I have an NFL player that I've been working with on a long-term rehab for a surgery that he underwent. And one of the things that I talked with him about early on was, some of his past rehabs, because he's had multiple surgeries, and he's had a lot of success post-surgery, but he keeps changing practitioners for many different reasons. And one of the things I talked with him about was, what has worked for you in the past and what hasn't, and where do you feel like that relationship hasn't been as good as it could have been during that rehab process, or even beyond. And a reason why I brought that up to him was because I really wanted to understand, how I could help this person the most, because he, again, had some success with his rehabs in the past. So it would be foolish of me to not at least take that into consideration. And many times over now, as a result, as we've gotten closer to this return to play performance sport, phase of it, as it's a continuum, we've had conversations and dialogue that have changed our approaches to things, because we have that healthy conversation of, he understands his body a little bit more, right? Because he's had exposure. So he can give me feedback, whereas some other patients wouldn't be able to give me as much of that feedback. So don't take that for granted. And also really, truly understand that some of those things are so important to make sure that you have a successful relationship with that particular client. So that's tip number one. Understand, again, they got here without you. Use that to your advantage and then build that rapport and that trust with that professional athlete, understanding that principle. The second tip I have for you is they probably have multiple practitioners, whether it's extra masseuses, strength coaches, maybe other PTs too. So many other practitioners are going to be at play with a lot of these professional athletes, especially in the off season. So the first thing that you have to understand is that that's not a reflection necessarily of you. They probably had those things already. And if they didn't, they're still probably going to do it whether you do a great job or not. They oftentimes will want to have different exposures to things, whether it's Pilates, yoga, maybe one PT does more soft tissue stuff and all the feel good modalities. And maybe that's not your specialty, or maybe you just, you focus more on the motor control, the strength part, the education part, or vice versa, right? Understanding that and being okay with that is so important, because not only does that allow you to have a good relationship with that client, that professional athlete, but you can have dialogues then with them about, hey, what are you doing outside of when you're with me? Because, and if you explain it from the point of view of, if I understand some of the other external loads you're going through, I can better equip our sessions and make sure that I'm not also doubling up on certain things that you're doing with other practitioners, whether it be strength coaches, etc. There's some professional athletes I have that have 2 different strength coaches on top of doing physio work with me. And while our physio work might be a little bit more low level compared to the strength and conditioning work, understanding what they've done and having conversations with that particular professional athlete's strength coaches, I say plural, helps me and them as a group work together to serve the best interest of that professional athlete. And when that professional athlete knows that we have the best interest because we're all communicating as a group, they have a lot more trust in each one of us as practitioners and better outcomes as a result, right? Because that's ultimately what you want, right? You want the outcome for the athlete. You're there to serve them as you are for any client you have. So that is the second tip. Really understand that if they have other practitioners, which they probably will, it's your job to check your ego at the door, have a dialogue with that professional athlete, and also demonstrate value by going that extra step and trying to communicate with A, the athlete, and B, if you can, the practitioners. Now, not all of them are open to that, but it's still your job to try to at least connect in some capacity, or at least do the workaround and work directly with that client so that you have an understanding of what they did. The last one is understand that those professional athletes, like other clients, will know when you're trying to impress and you're not really doing the best job you can. I think I see a lot of younger clinicians, and I'd say even some sports residents and some students do this too often. The first time they're exposed to a professional athlete, or even the first times, they're trying to do all these really fancy, cool tricks. And, after 10 years being in this field and being exposed to quite a bit of professional athletes, I can tell you that the basics are so important, and those are all the fancy stuff is not important. If they need basics, they need basics. And there's other ways that you can, if you're worried about intensity, for example, if they're not going to feel like they're working hard enough, number one, I can guarantee you that if you educate them enough, they're going to understand why you're doing certain things. But there's so many other modalities now for increasing intensity. BFR is a great example, right? If someone is early post-op, let's say they're early post-op ACL. I've had a few of those, right? Where they're early post-op ACL, they're a professional athlete, they play professional basketball. You want to do as much for that client as possible, right? You understand that, listen, they're able to do more. This is their job. You don't want to just give them quad sets and things like that and stim and all that good stuff, right? You want to make sure that they're working everything, right? So use BFR, right? Work the other joints out, do those things, but keep it basic, right? And those are things that, if you're doing enough of the objective measures, that's already demonstrating value, because you're giving them a framework and a roadmap to why you're doing certain things. That's all they really want, right? They want to understand, why are we doing what we're doing? So it's okay to do the basics as long as you've explained and educated, hey, these are the reasons why I've come up with this game plan. What are your thoughts? Give them some autonomy in that process. And also, that's how you demonstrate value too, is by giving them that trust and autonomy of, hey, this is my game plan for you. This is the reasons why I've come up with these things. Give me your thoughts. Let's have a discussion about it. Let's work together as a group so that we can figure out, when we need to make adjustments, etc. So again, those intensities that you can change those if you need to, but don't try to impress them with, talking different than, your normal personality, or, changing up exercises, constantly because you're trying to go above and beyond, they're going to see right through that. And I think that I've seen it happen with a lot of my other colleagues, as well as, other younger clinicians over time. And I'm sure I've done it as well without even realizing it, probably earlier on in my career. So, being aware of those things is going to be really crucial to demonstrate that proper value to them, and help them, most importantly. And that's really what it's all about. So, you'd be surprised how many professional athletes can't do something as simple as deceleration, right? If you can show them what they can't do a lot of times, and it's basic, they're going to gain some trust and value as well, because you're challenging them in a different way. Even though it seems basic to you, it might not be basic to them. They never have time to work on those things. So don't try to go too far outside the box and try to impress. Try to really just do right by the client by giving them what they need based on the objective measures, the plan of care that's appropriate for their individual particular condition, or what their goals are. So those are my 3 tips for this week's Day in the Life of a Sports Physical Therapist on how to demonstrate value to professional athletes. Hopefully you guys got a little bit out of that. If you guys like these short segments on Day in the Life of a Sports Physical Therapist, please subscribe to our YouTube channel on Student Physical Therapist. Check us out on the Student Physical Therapist. Or if you like the longer segments, check out our podcast, the Business Minded Sports Physio Podcast. I have a lot of really extended tips on those things, some really good information. I have some great interviews coming up as well. So check those out, subscribe, pass it on to your friends. If you like these short segments, if it helps you, please let me know. Reach out to us, add some comments. And if you do like a certain topic on something that you want to learn more about, ask me. Shoot me an email, send me a direct message on Instagram. Any of those forms of communication, I'm happy to answer those things. I really want to add some value and show some of the experiences I've had, but also really just help you grow as a sports physical therapist in different segments. So that's, again, this week's topic on A Day in the Life of a Sports Physical Therapist. I'll see you next week.